welcome to the lightning round. Da 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 da. We should have some exciting music going on, but we're gonna. This is called the lightning round. We're gonna go through questions that were asked. Here you go. The first question is, I want to ask if there's something written in literature about singing and side effect of a sleeve surgery, mini bypass surgery for losing weight. I had both surgeries and I suffer from hard reflux, which leads to serious spontaneous swelling in my throat. Is it possible to ask this question, please?
Ooh, okay. So this is a very specific medical question about someone's specific experience. They're talking in general terms about literature around voice and gastric sleeve procedures, bypass procedures. I don't have that literature at the top of my head, but my instinct is to say if you're experiencing reflux and we think about what happens when we do things in the gastrointestinal system, certainly that's something you'd want to go and follow up with your doctor about and ask what are the mechanisms that you think in my particular body could be contributing to me having more reflux now at this point. So it could be related to many of the things we talked about in terms of reflux for anyone, the volume of food in the stomach, for example, that can cause pressure, or just a loosening of the lower esophageal sphincter, which is that sphincter that keeps all the food in the stomach, for example, or just any of the things that we look at behaviorally. Once you've had surgery, you are slightly different than the person you were before you had surgery, and now there might be some adaptations necessary. And without having any more information, the safest thing to do is to say, ask the doctor who knows your personal health history best to help you figure out what's causing that.
Yep, I really could not agree more. It's a medical issue. I'm not a doctor, and even if I were, you're not my patient. So obviously there are many factors that can influence and impact your overall health, but you're in recovery, so follow the doctor's advice, go through your recovery. There are plenty of people who have had this surgery that recover, and there are plenty of people who have had these types of surgery who are still singing. And I happen to have had a very famous professor who was a world-class singer, sang in every famous opera house around the world, and he had this surgery during the middle of his career. So you can recover for it, but it is important that you follow your medical provider's advice. Okay,
I'll
that
also
was.
say if
Go
you want
ahead.
to find the literature, you can do a PubMed search with those terms and see what literature comes up, or ask a colleague who's good at digesting research to help you find it, because there's probably some good stuff out there.
And here's question number 2 from Tamara Lee. I have a lot of sinus drain due to allergies. I take an antihistamine, but I get dried out. Is there nothing worse than singing and feeling like a river of sinus fluid is drowning me? Help, advice.
That's a good one. A lot of people struggle with this, whether it's seasonally or related to having a cold or something. But then there's also other reasons why you can have sinus drainage problems or extra postnasal drip, we call it. And again, kind of a specific question. Yes, antihistamines will dry you out, absolutely. So we know that that's problematic. And it's one of those situations where you're 100% right. A flood of postnasal drip is awful. Dry antihistamine following experience, also bad, not good. So it's a little bit of a rock and a hard place. I'm going to say what I said earlier, which is try to figure out what's causing it. So instead of taking, now, I'm not saying taking an antihistamine is bad or wrong, but if you don't like the drying effects of the antihistamine, maybe let's find out why your body is having a reaction that's causing that postnasal drip to flow. And a lot of times when we go to our general practitioners, they just don't have time to get into depth. You say, I have a sinus problem. They say, take these antihistamines, and it does resolve the symptom. But then we end up with this other challenge, which is, but I really have to also manage my singing at the same time. And the doctor's like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So because we have limited time sometimes with our doctors, we don't get a chance to go in depth. So I would say this is a good one to follow up on too and ask that specific question. So instead of how do I manage my postnasal drip, also I don't like antihistamines, that's a bit of a rock and a hard place. Instead, maybe try saying, I don't love postnasal drip. I don't love that antihistamines are drying and I want to keep singing. What can we do to find out what's causing my postnasal drip and maybe resolve it at the source? So that's one thought.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. That's great. It's in mindset coaching. You're getting mindset coaching here as well, and that's important. So look for solutions. I have allergies. If you have allergies and you are allergic to something, there's nothing you can do, and aside from take some medication to alleviate symptoms. But if I have an allergic to reaction to certain types of animals, and I get asthma, and then it's hard to breathe. So, well, the only thing I can really do is avoid those animals, And if you're in an environment where you're just being bombarded by pollen and spores and all those things, there's nothing you can do. And we do sympathize. Just look at what causing it is the best thing, and try and maintain it at the source as much as possible. And we wish you the best of luck. You're not alone. I've been on the stage with a lot of professional singers that have to deal with allergies and other things all the time. So
It's a
you'll find
tough one, isn't it?
it's a
It's a
tough.
really tough one. I think too, managing whole body wellness to make sure that you've got all your defenses up against whatever the allergen is can be helpful. And staying hydrated, separate from the antihistamine question, can help the mucus and the stuff that's flowing to be as easy to clear as possible, just so you're not adding additional vocalization by clearing.
Yes.
It's a tough one though.
Yes, it is. So, please, how do I bridge the voice from head to chest and vice versa? This is a very, very common question. We can also call that transitioning. Um, let me answer my quick lightning answer, and then I'll pass it on to Melanie, because there's a lot of a lot of ways to work on this and to visualize it and think about it. I'm going to give you try and give you a very concrete answer. There are different muscles in your larynx that work in various ways from the head, so-called head, to chest. Really, the sound of the head, the sound of what people call chest, is the result of certain muscular activity. So you basically need to get these muscles, this transition, working in tandem better together and get them engaging, so they're kind of doing this nice handoff action. And if you were reaching for somebody's hand, passing somebody a drink, and you just dropped it before they got it in their hand, what would happen? It would basically happen. You have this flip. So really know that it's in coordination that you can absolutely work on, and it will get better. And that's the background I wanted to give. I'll give you just a quick example of what you can do. One thing is just going from the head down into the chest. When did it turn into chest there? Look and see if you can do it as smoothly as possible, and just get it low as possible, and look for that point where it transitions on its own. In the beginning, it might be rough. You might have that in the beginning. That's okay. The more you do it in this direction, the smoother you're going to get that handoff, that transition, and it does take time. So that's how you discover it. And then another thing I would say is, once you find it on a note, if you have a piano, if you find that it's around a C3, or if you find it's, pick the pitch. Notice where those pitches are. And then instead of doing the whole big range, just do it a little bit more reduced. So you're actually working and targeting that area. Now it's Melanie's turn.
Oh, it was good. Okay, do you want my lightning round answer? I'm
Yes.
going to win this round. Ready? Practice. I know it's not the answer anyone wants, but it's literally, you said all the words I wanted to say. You said coordination, you said transition, you said handoff, you said, go over that range a bunch of times. And basically what it comes down to is figure out which exercises work best for you, maybe with somebody who can train you, and then practice it a lot. The more consistently you practice, the better you'll get at it. And I really do think that the answer to this is practice. Figure out how to coordinate. I know what you're really asking for is, yes, but what do I practice and how do I practice? But Philippe gave a really good example of how to slowly work through something. And it's not unlike anything else that's difficult at first, something that isn't going the way you want to. Slow down. Take it step by step. Be mindful when you practice that, and be diligent about practicing it, and you will get better at it. It will coordinate better.
Absolutely.
It was great. I loved listening to your answer. It was perfect. I was like, done. I'll have to answer this.
Next question. Earl Gregory. Is emotional singing dangerous on the chords? When you sing and a song drives you to such a place that you're overcome with emotion, that you're not thinking about technique but just pure feeling, sometimes the force on the vocal folds are so harsh. Oh, I can't wait for this one. Go ahead.
Oh, what? You can't wait for it. You want me to answer it first? Do you
Yes.
have a good answer? Do you have a good answer?
I'm passionate about this subject, so go.
Okay, fine. Then you get the last word. Anytime we vocalize very, very emotionally, it is very hard to be thinking about technique. Absolutely. If you think about a time when you are crying uncontrollably or you vocalize out of grief or anger, those kinds of vocalizations can be difficult on the voice. Absolutely. That doesn't mean emotional singing is hard on the voice. It means that there are some uncontrolled emotional outbursts that could be hard on the voice and might fall into those risk categories. But I also think we can't live our lives emotionless. So it's another instance of practicing, being able to practice being in that emotion and still having a little bit of control connected to that. And that comes with practice as well. So I think the overall answer is yes and no. Yes, it can be difficult on the vocal folds. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be. And if the reason for this question is, should I sing without emotion so that I can have technique? The answer to that is definitely no.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So I'm so passionate about this, people. I'm absolutely. It's a big part of my work is helping artists connect emotionally and layer their sound with emotion, and working on interpretation, the communication, emotion. This is the basis for singing. Okay, it is the basic reason why we as human beings sing. So it is absolutely going to, done the right way, okay, this will absolutely improve everything about your technical execution immediately. You don't even have to know. 95% of singing issues I can fix with emotional layering, and the rest is technique. So the problem is when we get it, you need to look at what is the true emotional reaction, right? Because if you're singing a song and you're emotional about it and you think this part needs to be loud and you just make it loud, is that your authentic emotional sound at that pitch that you would use in real life? If it's not, then your connection, you're adding something to the voice that you would never do in real life. So if maybe somebody else other than me has had this happen to them, and I'm turning down my volume, had this happen to them in life where they had just a horrible day and they were so frustrated and they thought nothing ever is going to be okay again, and they just went like this. All right, and guess what? That is not going to hurt your voice. Crazy, huh? Maybe if you do it, because it's completely authentic and it's completely backed with emotion. If you don't know how to do that and you try and add that to a song, you're going to do it wrong, okay? And if it's not your authentic volume level and you're just the victim of your emotion, you could hurt yourself. But if you, like Melanie said, you got to sing with emotion. It is so important. And as you're learning, then you need, as Melanie also said, you need to rein in that emotion more. It needs to be there, but you cannot let it push you beyond the necessary activity that you need for singing. Because if it overwhelms you, it can shut everything down. It's like, have you ever tried singing when you have the hiccups? No chance. It's never going to happen, right? And if you're going crying like that, you're never going to sing. So if using emotion, absolutely so important. If it overwhelms you, it's going to cause vocal problems. When you find the emotional connection, then it's all about balancing to the right level so you can sustain this for hours at a time. You know what I mean? So, sorry, that was a long...
Oh, you got some feelings about this, eh? You got some emotions about the emotion.
So important, and it really works. But you do need some guidance, and you will find it. So please do not avoid singing with emotion. Just look at how much the emotion pushes you to possibly leave the realms of normal or the realms of safe. All right? So... let's go.
Can I tell you a hilarious quick sidebar that everyone I'm sure will enjoy? This is me being super vulnerable. I was in my voice degree in undergrad and had just broken up with this guy who was my drummer. It was a whole thing. And my roommate, who was a professional dancer, and I were singing into our hairbrushes, getting ready to go out and blow off some steam about it. And we were singing Prince, because that's what you do. And she turns to me and she goes, "Girl, you need to get dumped more often. You got soul." And I was so upset. Philippe, I was so upset. I was like, that was the only argument we had in 4 years of living together. I love this girl. I was devastated. I was like, are you telling me I should get dumped more often? It took me 2 weeks to talk to her about it because I was so broken up about the whole thing. And I said to her, I was like, you have to know that really hurt my feelings that you said I only had soul because somebody broke up with me. And she was like, no, 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 no. She said, no, 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 no. You are like at the peak of training. I come to all your shows. You are technically like a very proficient singer. She said, but I heard you do something I've never heard you do before
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you were worried about technique, because we were
Yeah.
singing in our hairbrushes, because it was just
Yes.
emotional. And she
Yes.
said, that is your next level of singing. And I was like, oh, I had such a revelation, right?
Yes.
I had
It's so
such a
true.
revelation. So that's
No,
my fun
no,
story about getting dumped.
I love it. I love it. It just, I'm going to jump on this with a lightning answer too. So this is a great example because you could say, take my first comment and say, okay, I never need to learn any vocal technique or anything else. I just need to connect emotionally. And yeah, you will really improve. But the better your technique gets, the easier it is for your body to draw on what it already knows and draw on your natural ability. You know,
Mhm.
if a wild animal were chasing me, you better believe I'd be running fast. But if I were training sprinting and running on a regular basis, I would be running a lot faster for a lot
Right?
longer
Oh,
time.
that's a good example. That's a good
Yeah.
example. It's true. And that was my time where I needed to let the technique just be and stop working it directly. And
Yes.
now just connect to singing and know that my body would do the right things for me. Well, look at us having an emotional conversation about emotional singing. That was
I
good.
know. I got just one more. I think. So this was okay to me privately. Sorry, I've been having a hard time finding my lower mixed chesty voice. What tips can you give me? So I'm going to give a quick lightning answer. The lower you go, the less this is possible, simply because there's a volume issue, and you have a very low volume possibility for a mix. The lower you go, it will disappear at some point. So I don't know exactly the sound you're looking for, but mix lives in the medium range. It just gets a little louder and you go higher, and it also has a volume cap as you're going higher. That's where most people run into. They push the volume as you go higher, but as you're going down, it disappears completely at one point. So if you're going for the sound that's created by this physical shape in the vocal tract, just know that's going to dissipate. It's going to disappear, and you're going to need to transition into another shape, another sound that sounds similar. Any idea? And maybe that's not what she means, but let me pop up the question again. Maybe Emily's got another inspiration from this question. Having a hard time finding my lower mix chesty voice.
Practice. With coordination. I'm just saying. It's one of those things again that with practice you'll figure out where much like vocal pacing, what are my own limitations? What can my voice do? But this question is not unlike I have a friend who is often asking for something that just isn't. Like, why can't the sun be up longer in the day? This is what I need. I need more sunlight hours. The truth is, what she needs is maybe more efficiency during the day so that she gets it done during sunlight hours, for example. So it's not so much that your question is incorrect at all. It's that you're going for a sound. There's a place where that's not working for you, and you're asking what sounds like a perfectly reasonable question. How do I make these two things come together? I think it's back to that underpinning thing. What are you going for? What are you trying to get to? And is there a different way to get there? Because, as Philippe said, there are just limitations to how long the sun can shine, where my mixed voice will go. There's limitations to some things. Doesn't mean you can't have what you want. Just means you might have to get it a different way. Oh, and then practice it.
Yes, very good. So now, because if we want to get specific, we need to give you a specific answer. We kind of need to know what you're going for. If
Mm-hmm.
you're going for something like, I'll turn on my little keyboard here. If you're going for oh, it's going to disappear. If you're going for more of a it can get louder. If you're wanting more chest darkness in that lower mix, I'm not sure what you're wanting to mix in. Are you going for more jazzy sound? Are you going for more clarity in that on those lower pitches? A real easy trick is to give a little smile. A little smile can really help very quickly. and a little bit of twang maybe, but not knowing exactly the sound you're going for makes it difficult to answer precisely. So if you want to get more clarity and more volume in your lower range, I recommend just consider this. If I'm doing a yawn, and I allow the tongue to pull back here, which is what most people do when they're getting lower because they're trying to create space and make this deep sound, and then the tongue pulls back.
They're making me yawn.
If you keep
I'm so susceptible.
but if you keep the tongue going and
Oh,
keep
that
it
was good.
forward on the way down, you're always gonna have more a center. You know what I mean? So keep the tongue, you can keep the tongue going forward a little bit as you're going down in the space, add a little bit of twang, add a little smile. There are different things you can try out. And also don't push the volume down there. The lower you go, the easier the airflow needs to be, and the more delicate the balance. So accept maybe more of the lower volume and go for a bit more clarity if that's what you're after. Wish we knew exactly the sound you're trying to create.
And this has been Voice Lessons with Philippe. That was really great. That was really great. Like, you gave a ton of stuff and still technically a lightning round. That was really good.
Thanks. It's been so much fun. Yeah, it's great to do this, and there's so many questions about the voice, and it's great to also hear your answers. And thanks so much again for being part of Voice Masters Livestream.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
My generic question is, when are we going to do a live event? I'm
Right?
like to do a live event in the future.
Gosh, yeah. Okay, turn off recording and we'll have a quick